is being chased, throwing on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a grab.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's the warrior spirit right there, boy.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
90-yard touchdown. 90-yard touchdown.
It's going to be picked off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Herbert sets his feet, takes a shot downfield, has Knighton. Caught! Touchdown, Chargers!
That's the greatest throw I've ever seen.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast. Andy Prophet, your host here. He's not Jack, but he'll do. Alistair Lloyd, what's going on, brother?
Oh, man, it's just me and my best friend, number one best friend in the world, favourite podcast buddy. It's good to be with you, mate. No, just kidding. We miss you, Jack. We don't know how long it will be, the two of us, but while it is, we're going to try and enjoy every moment, even though we've just sat through one of the more grueling losses you could ever imagine.
Yep. Pretty grim.
No injuries this week, though.
Well, there is that. And on that, I am thankful for you and your health, but I do feel bad for Chargers fans alike, because it seems like if I don't injure Alistair or cause him some mild physical discomfort, the Chargers lose. So next week, I'm going to fuck you up, going to put you in a bed, and hopefully we get the W and we can feel a lot better. Not a victory pod tonight, guys, unfortunately, but it's tears and beers. So tap one and get stuck in as we break down when the Lions came to town. Chargers stuck right in the middle at the moment of an NFC North 1-2 combo. We got done at home by the Lions and their loud fans, and we look ahead toward a must-win trip to Lambeau Field. We'll make this one quick. Detroit Lions 41, Los Angeles Chargers 38. Lots of points, lots of fun watching for the neutral or the uneducated, but classic tales of Chargers offbeat football for us mad fans. Offense overcoming a slow start, going toe-to-toe with the rampant Lions offense, but the defense just couldn't keep their end of the deal up. Herbert was sensational, over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Keenan Allen, 177 on 11 catches and 2 scores for himself. Defense surrenders over 500 yards for the second time this year, 200 of those on the ground, the majority in the first half, and, 41 fucking points. The Vultures are circling Brandon Staley as he fails the litmus test against genius offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, slumping now to 4-5, and as I said, heading to the frozen tundra for what is shaping up to be a crucial game. Al, tell me your thoughts, man.
Failed the test he did, and I think, look, as an ode to our good friend Jack, we've almost got to start this not talking about stats or numbers. We've got to bring some kind of a schoolroom analogy, right? I saw this game as Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley walking in with their caps on and their backpack and no girlfriends in for their advanced mathematics test to end high school. And they've done all their prep and they're ready to go. Kellen Moore sits there. He's actually struggling with all of the easy multiple choice questions at the start. He's just answering C for everything. Run the ball on first down. C. Run the ball on first down. C. Then later in the sections, though, he actually starts dominating. He dominates cubic polynomials, logarithms, advanced trigonometry. He slapped that bit out of the park. So overall, well done, Kellen. You've passed the test with flying colours, it would seem. Brandon Staley, when things were kind of there early on, he got those multiple choices right. However, anything that was remotely difficult, anything that required some advanced thinking, he couldn't come up with the solutions. He actually didn't even bother answering some of the questions. By the end of the test, it was apparent he would have to be retaking the class and, in fact, going back to primary school to start again.
Failed to show his working out. I couldn't agree with you more, mate. That is a very Jack Reed-esque kind of analogy and suited to... You must miss him a lot. I did not prepare any kind of Reed diatribe, but I'm glad you did, and I know a lot of the fans did. And if the teachable moment is anything tonight, it'll be stay in your lane.
By the way, it sounds like he's gone somewhere, like he's either passed on or he's gone overseas. No, he's just in Adelaide, taking a bit of a break, being very busy, moving house, young infant. So we hope he's listening, and we hope to have him back soon.
Well, no, pretty early on, if he's listening. We'll hear about it. You guys think you're pretty funny, huh? Yeah, we do. All right, let's kick off on the offense. We start positive because things got pretty dour on the back end there. So, like I said, Herbert, 27 to 40, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns through a pretty average interception, really, in the second quarter there, or the first quarter.
Do you reckon he was trying to throw it out of bounds, or do you reckon he was trying to hit Everett? It's hard to tell.
Like, it really is, because he's overshot Everett. He's misjudged whatever route Keenan was running up the sideline. And he looks like he's really tried to... Yeah, it looks like he's just tried to zip it out. And was it Kerry Joseph made an awesome play?
Yeah, Kirby. Hell of an interception.
Yeah. Look, that's the sort of main tarnish. Airmailed a few other ones. But on the whole, pretty great game. And those, 5 consecutive drives scoring a touchdown really kept the Chargers in the game in what could have been a very ugly affair. But look, on offensive stats, it's pretty similar. Like, we're looking at 24 first downs for the Chargers, 23 for the Lions. Even time of possession, so we were able to hold the ball and work the ball down the field. There was a great drive across the third into the fourth quarter that showed really good sort of offensive stability. But at the end of the day, the difference was in the run game, and we generated 28 carries for 98 yards, and the Lions went 31 carries for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, and it was a pretty brutal affair. We'll stick to the offense, though. We've got a big shout out for Keenan Allen. The guy is, well, I don't even really know how to say it. He's just proven everyone wrong, winding the clock back. I think he's in the top 5 rankings of wide receivers across the league: first downs, receptions, yards. He's up there for touchdowns as well. What do you think of how this kind of little twilight of his career is going?
It was unexpected because, we're having hypothetical discussions before the season around, is he Hall of Fame eligible? And I figured, just looking at some contemporaries and other players, Torrey Holt amongst some others, that he'd probably need 3 or 4 years of, 1,000+ receiving yards to really be a strong candidate. He still would be in the ballpark, but it gets harder because he's playing in an era where there's a lot more passing yardage, and he's going to have to beat the likes of Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill. His body's held up so far, and he's on his way to an all-pro caliber season. You'd think at this stage he's making the Pro Bowl. He puts together another 2 years of this, and he's got a great claim to it. And I'm so happy to see it. He's amongst, my favorite players I've watched in the NFL. He's done it the right way. Yeah, he's a team guy. He doesn't complain. His route running is just poetry in motion. The way he sets guys up and changes his speed and knows where he is on the field, and he's such a friendly target because of the way he can catch the ball in different ways. He's just a stud. And I know, listeners, how much we all respect this guy. Outstanding game, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I thought one thing to kind of, a few things of the offense that was really promising to see. Creative play calling from Kellen Moore. A couple of those 4th down plays in particular, the one that sprung Quentin Johnston open for his first NFL touchdown.
Yep.
And then even the play to Keenan Allen for the 30-yard touchdown. Excellent play design, really clever, perfectly set up. And the offensive line did the kind of primary thing they had to do. They didn't do the secondary thing, I agree, Andy. They couldn't get space in the running game. We tried to run a lot of zone concepts in the running game. We didn't give we didn't give Kelly more carries. We kept feeding Eckler. Didn't really work. But the primary job, I think, was to stop the likes of Aiden Hutchinson and the pass rush.
Yep.
And Herbert was pressured on 29.3% of dropbacks, amongst his least of the year, and way better than what we've seen from the last few games. And when that happens, what did we see from Justin Herbert? 5 big-time throws per PFF, which ties for the most he's ever had in a game, tying with what he did against the Saints as a rookie and what he did against the Raiders in Week 18 in 2021. So we had the king mode of Herbert back, and if he's going to play like that, Chargers will be in every single game that they're in.
Yeah, I mean, heck, they put up 38 points, and you've heard it so much across the media since Sunday night. when a team scores touchdowns on their last 5 drives, puts up 38 points and still loses, it's just crazy. And it is one of the big questions banging on the door. What the fuck is going on here? You're right. I think, look, Hutchinson did sort of get the better of Pipkins at times, a lot faster. Pipkins gave up, I think, 3 hits and 3 hurries. But, kept pretty clean. 0 sacks on 40 dropbacks. It's a testament to both the line and to Herbert. And one really good thing, or a couple of good things out of Herbert. So I'll start with the line. He looked like he was aware. His pocket awareness was back, and he was able to recognize the direction of the pressure, move in and out of the way, use his legs to scramble for a first down. Some good pickups there. And you heard Romo on the broadcast saying this is stuff that he needs to work out and do more often. And I think the coaches have spoken to him about that. So it's just another element of his game that he's sort of putting everything together. Going back to Keenan, when he got hit and took some snaps off, it was really good to see Herbert evolving where he's looking. I guess he's sort of forced to throw the ball to the likes of QJ and Jalen Guyton, but both of them got in for scores, as you said. QJ's first ever touchdown and Jalen Guyton's first in 2 years. Dude looks jacked. Jalen Guyton looks big. I'm hoping that hasn't taken off too much of his over-the-top speed, because with only providing Darius Davis, I think, with 25% of snaps and using him predominantly behind the line of scrimmage in motion plays, it's hard to know what we really want to do. There was a lot of chat in the offseason from offense and defensive players saying, man, they're gonna throw some big balls and there's gonna be some numbers put up. Well, there were some great throws, don't get me wrong, but Herbert's average depth of target was under 7, and it's just more kind of trying to just work the ball down the field rather than that explosive kind of hurry up, let's get a score and get the ball back. The fact of the matter is the defense wasn't forcing any stops, so it made time pretty hard.
No, but it is that tension though between knowing that you haven't been protecting the passer well the last few weeks, wanting to get it out of Herbert's hands in case Hutchinson or those types of players, Lee McNeil, get to him, but also taking some shots and taking some opportunities. Yeah. You've got to find that right balance. Ultimately, the offense scores 38 points without Josh Palmer or Mike Williams or Corey Linsley. You should win games where you score 38 points 99 times out of 100. Unfortunately, this was that one time. Now, lest we kind of come across as saying the offense was perfect, which it definitely was later in the game, scoring touchdowns on its final 5 drives. I think we have to call out that there was a real problem early in this game, whether it is explicable by the 6-day break coming across the country from New York, with the Lions well rested, maybe, but they scored 3 points on their first 4 drives. And I think one of the real candidates for why that happened was because of Kellen Moore's somewhat stubborn approach to play calling on 1st and 10. In the first half of 6 drives that the Chargers had, 5 of those they called a running play on 1st down. And those plays went for 1 yard, 3 yards, 2 yards, 2 yards, 9 yards in the 2-minute drill. You can't start drives 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8. It just kills you, man. And unfortunately, when the defense did get a really nice stop early in that, it might have been the second quarter where they got the goal line sand. We were so excited at that. I'm sure you were too, listeners. It suddenly felt like, oh my God, the defense got to stop. Ensuing drive, the offense goes 3 and out and punts. Then the Lions score. And then on the next drive, Herbert throws an interception. You're putting your defense in a really bad spot early in that game, and time of possession killed the team in the first half. And I think we just could not kind of bridge that gap over the course of the 60 minutes.
Yeah, you're right. I thought my big takeaway after the game from looking above was that it was the slow start on offense that really hindered us. And then you go, but we also scored 38 points and gave up 41. and the offense had just about as good a game as they could have. It was incredibly exciting to see. Wasn't great that we were always chasing tail and trying to snatch back a lead that we sort of gave Detroit more often than not. But look, as I was saying earlier about the stats, the Chargers went 7 of 14 on third downs and gave up 4 of 13 for the Lions. 4 of 13 third down conversions. At one point, they were 0 from 8. And big balls, Dan Campbell was just going, give me fourth down. Give me fourth down. You guys ain't stopping shit. And except for that goal line stop, I think they scored at least one touchdown on fourth downs and didn't want Riley Patterson near a field goal in the 50 range. Fox was just pinning them when he had to punt. It was just a real, whatever you got, we'll smash it down in your face. We'll bite your kneecap off. I'll eat a raw bull nut, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. He just let Ben Johnson be a wizard. I saw something about, we'll get into the defense, but just the cerebral nature of Ben Johnson's planning and preparation and relaying that to his guys. Just polar opposite for how Staley's prepared the defense on our side. So look, massive plaudits for a great coaching group at Detroit. Just another shame that we can't ever seem to put complementary football together and our defense back up the offense and get a stop and try and win the game. So
All nuts, you say?
big bull balls. I think just Dan Campbell loves a multi-shot coffee and a raw bull testicle, just like an apple. He'd love that sort of gear.
Has someone dared him to eat that, or just
I wouldn't have thought
personal
so.
choice? Okay.
I wouldn't have. I would have thought that's like in his Wheaties bowl.
Well, his team plays with the same intestinal fortitude, shall we say? They reflect they're the image and likeness of their coach on the field. And I don't know if there was anywhere that this was clearer, mate, than on that 75-yard touchdown run to David Montgomery, which really was a nail in the coffin. That was such a momentum killer and an energy sapper, that play. But you know what? Who was springing the block down the field on Asante Samuel? It was Jameson Williams, the first-round pick, who has not been a good draft pick so far. He's had all sorts of issues from injury to off the field. He used every bit of his 4.3 speed to get up there and seal the critical block that made that a touchdown and, in a way, kind of put at least one nail in the Chargers' coffin. They all play with that kind of dog mentality. And what about the offensive line?
I ain't seen anything like it of recent times. Sure as shit haven't seen our team play like that. That was from the first play as dominant as you get. Montgomery, Gibbs, they weren't getting touched until they were well past the line of scrimmage. It was like, do you dare say Chargers defensive line of old, or just at least the run defense of old? We looked like we were absolute pretenders sitting at 6th or 7th in the league in run defense, the way that we handled, the way that we aligned ourselves, prepared. Guys were just getting sucked in on the play action, something crazy. And, all of it was before the play action had been generated by Goff. I think he feigned a handoff on the first play, and then it was just run, 180-odd yards or 170-odd yards in the first half. And, we can go, oh, yeah, but the run defense, got better in the second half. I was like, yeah, but the line started throwing the ball and tearing us up in the air. So doesn't really matter which way you look at it. It's a really poor performance on the defensive side of the ball. Do you believe that it is an execution thing? Do you think it is a mentality thing? Do you think, what is it that, you can't use the excuse of we're not playing a lesser opposition, so we don't go down to their level. We crushed the Bears and the Jets. We come up against a good opposition. What do you think it was? Are our guys not capable, or is it something that they're missing in their preparation?
I think it calls into question kind of a couple of things. They're causing into question the specific defensive scheme, which is the scheme that believes in light boxes and lighter personnel and flying around and stopping the pass. You come up against teams who are old school and want to run the ball and play 12 personnel like the Lions, who happen to have a top 2 O-line, and you're automatically behind that 8 ball. I think if you give Bill Belichick or Bill Parcells or one of the great defensive coordinators this exact roster, it would have looked better, but I think you're still suffering this horrible disadvantage where you can't stop those 5 guys up front in the running game. And if first contact on the running back isn't happening until 3 or 4 yards past the line of scrimmage, you're in for a long day because play action's going to work, Andy. As you said, you're not going to get Goff into 3rd and longs. And goodness, as you mentioned before, we dominated 3rd down on defense.
Yeah.
What was it in the end? 4 of 13 on 3rd down. Completely incongruous with allowing 41 points. When you go 4 of 13 on 3rd down, you should win the game. It just shows that the explosives killed us again and the running game killed us. So it calls into question the Fangio tree against these types of teams. I think it also calls into question any decision to hire defensive head coach in the modern NFL. And you never want to make a complete blanket rule, but there has to be something to the fact that as an offensive architect, you can come up with, there's almost like an infinite number of plays and play designs, right? We've seen from the fast jet motions to all sorts of unique trap runs. We saw wide receiver sweeps in this game with Ben Johnson using a variation of the call that the Jacksonville Jaguars used with Travis Etienne. The run call on 4th and 5 when the defense was in dime, so they know we can actually run the ball for 5 yards. Defense is so reactive. What are you going to do? You're going to call cover 3, cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, zone, dog blitz, whatever you want. You're limited. I think you're just limited defensively in how you can keep up with some of these offenses with crazy personnel. We're seeing some outstanding athletes coming out of the college game. You're adding to that quarterbacks who can run, which completely eliminates, an extra defensive player. You now need to account for scrambling quarterbacks, and defensive coordinators are scrambling. Now, look, I know this year offensive points are down a little bit, and defense has kind of bridged that gap a little across the league. Well, it's not happening with Brandon Staley. I know who you play matters, and the Chargers have had to come across the Chiefs, the Lions, the Dolphins. It's easier if you're an NFC South team or an NFC North team. Maybe you're not coming up against some of those offenses. But unfortunately, every time we're giving up either 500 yards or 450 yards. We can't stop slot receivers for shit. Jefferson's going off the leash. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 156 yards in this game. So, at that level, you've got Ben Johnson. He's completely obliterated Staley. He had every possible cleverly concocted play ready to go, ready to use, and it worked almost 100% of the time.
The personnel groupings I found to be one of the more startling things. Early on, you spoke about I think they used 13 personnel in a tight formation on that 4th and 5th run. And so we've got nickel defense, lighter box, and just run at 5 yards. I think the play before was 12 personnel, 2 tight ends out wide. So Max slips into coverage, just a shallow out, pick up another, might have been 3rd and long, make 4th down easy. It's, we just got so outplanned and outmanned at the end of the day that the line couldn't get any push on theirs, generated minimal pass rush. And it's a shame because when we did flush Goff out of the pocket, he was starting to look crap. But the reality is I think he had close to 2.77 seconds to throw. That's the time he took to throw, and at times he would have had way longer because that was the cleanest pocket I've seen since Jack, anytime you ask him to buy a beer. Linebackers got
I didn't bring my money, man.
They got no money, buddy. Linebackers got torched, and you see how it
got to apply for a mortgage.
Kendricks and Kenny Murray, their PFF grades were some howlers, and it was just any odd receiver was just lining up and having their way. Kenny Murray just got really sucked into a lot of the play action stuff, and it really just destroyed all the zones that we were running. I thought,
and Andy, we talked about this before the game. Why not? I mean, Kendricks and Murray were just so outclassed in pass coverage. You don't want to get Dayon Henley in for a single snap for the entire game. Whoever's making that call, I'm just going to assume it's Staley. It's got to be Staley. You've got to change something up. I mean, the game plan I thought should have featured Henley in pass coverage. Like, why not do that when he's shown like he's got the ability to see the field? So it's all unraveling a bit. You were going to say something about Jahmyr Gibbs. It seemed like you're about to talk about him. No, I thought you were going to say something else, but I want to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs then.
Yeah.
That guy, who cares where it was taken in the draft?
Yeah. Him 1, 2, and 3. I thought Jack Campbell was even pretty good. He made some great tackles. You take Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta with your first 2 picks, and they're studs. Jahmyr Gibbs was uncontrollable. Could not reach him. And a lot of it is the poor angles, and the tackling wasn't great in the secondary anywhere, really. But, man, he's fast. He's got some great... you talk about Josh Kelly being a one-cut runner. Hold my beer, man. You seen this Jahmyr guy? Just silk. I'd love for a running back like that to ever grace for the Chargers,
Oh, Tony Romo and Jim Nantz were falling over themselves in their praise for him. I think at one point they said he's got a chance to be in that, like, the special category of running back, like that Hall of Fame category. They didn't quite go that far, but they were saying, you watch this guy, this is not normal to see someone who moves with this kind of speed and vision. And when you've got an offensive line creating separation up the front, God, he's just one cut and gone. And the Chargers, frankly, were lucky that they didn't see more yardage from him, because it's only because they gave a few carries to Montgomery that it wasn't Gibbs who had 180 yards.
Yeah. Well, 200 between pretty much 2 of them is enough for me, anyway. That's as much as
I didn't want to see more, that's for sure.
No.
Oh, dear. But look, all that being said, the game still came down to, and as it always does, it comes down to small moments. As you're saying, Andy, 4th down. They took an anomalous approach to 4th down, hyper aggressive, more aggressive than the analytics bots would tell you to be. So they go for it 5 times. They convert 4 of them. If any one of those 4 goes a different way, right? If they get clever on that 4th and 5 run and it doesn't work, if the very last 4th and 2 completion to Laporta, the initial phase of the coverage, he wasn't open yet. Murray was in his zone. Pass rush didn't get home because there was no blitz. And then Goff, to his credit, made a really nice play, hit Laporta in between 2 defenders. If either of those don't go their way, Chargers probably walk out of this game with a 41-38 victory. Herbert gets the ball back, a minute 30 left. We're not having this type of conversation. We're talking about 3 wins in a row. Okay, the defense was bad, but look, we can still beat the Lions, even though we gave up 500 yards. So it's just funny how it's always little moments in games, and it seems to be the case that in those moments, the Chargers don't make the plays.
Yep. Just going back to Dan Campbell and the nurries on him. How's the call inside field goal range in the 4th quarter to go for it on 4th down and just go, we're going to get it and I'll just burn more clock? Unbelievable. And,
Great call.
we
Finished the
sit
game.
there watching. Neither of us was saying anything at this point. We just know that everything hangs in the balance. And all I'm thinking in my head is, they're going to get it. We're going to let them get it, because that's just what this porous defense does. God damn. We talk about coaches being prepared. What kind of direction do you think Staley gives his players? And how focused do you think he puts his energy on the defense ahead of all 3 phases as a collective? Do you feel like with so much inconsistent, like non-complementary football, let's say, do you think that there's a bit of a divide with how the three phases or units are kind of, brought together and coached?
I would guess, and I can only guess because he doesn't really speak about it and they don't show it all in. I would guess he spends the majority of his time in the defensive room, probably a fair bit in the quarterback room too with Herbert. I couldn't see him spending much time with special teams or the offense that much, allowing Kellen to do that. The extraordinary part is, he's collected a group full of teachers, people who come from education or have teachers as parents, and it would appear that he would be a good teacher. He's very clear at explaining his answers to things and what he wants in some of his long press conferences. You can see sometimes, but like even when you see them showing footage from All In of him talking to the group, he's not mincing words and he's showing what he wants. He's running a scheme that he dogmatically will not change and believes in, despite the results being plainly awful across the entire duration. So that, they haven't changed play callers. Daniel Popper said again this morning, he asked Staley, are you going to keep calling the plays? And he said, yes, he's going to go out his way.
But the way he answered that question was so antagonistic, wasn't it? He's like, yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. People can do that. No, we're not going to do it. It's my decision and I'm not going to do that.
Well, at least he's going down his way. I'm not saying it's the right thing. Like he's stubborn, and he is showing traits that are frankly making me look like a bit of a fool because of all the character reasons why we thought he was a really good leader. Once the team has started to lose games, and he's feeling that pressure from the fan base and the journalists, you're seeing some fragility, and you're seeing a lot of stress and a lot of strain. And, maybe the team's going to crawl out of this hole and go on a win streak. And he'll say, what were you all talking about? I went from 9 wins to 10 wins to 11 wins. You fuckwits. And maybe he'll be right. Or maybe the team will come and lose the next, they'll lose 6 of their next 8. He'll finish the season with 7 wins and he'll be fired. He's going to do it his way. The topic of firing is relevant because it's been all of the talk on Twitter. It's the talk every week with Chargers fans, almost irrespective of the result. But what would you, put this question, Tao on Bolts from the Blue wrote a fan post, the synthesized version, although, listeners, you can go and find it on Bolts from the Blue. He essentially said, that we should fire Brandon Staley right now, this week. In a nutshell, the reasons it's not working. What is there to lose by changing things around? Maybe you see improved performance with different play callers. You get an opportunity to essentially scout Kellen Moore or Ficken or whoever you put in as the caretaker coach. Why not do it right now? What do you say to that?
Me as like a non. Am I answering this from me, or if I'm
you're the decision maker? You're Dean Spanos. Yep.
Look, I don't think that keeping him will fix the problem right now. I'm very close to saying that this season is a lost one.
Yeah,
we're right on the cusp of that. I think if we lose this week, then I'll be having 8 beers on the next podcast and every podcast thereafter. So good luck with the production. But I just don't know if firing the coach is good for the harmony of the team right at the minute. That being said,
for the Raiders,
that's true. Yeah, but it's a completely different thing. I think there's, as far as we're aware on the surface, let me put it this way. There's far less obvious hatred of the head coach at the Chargers, if there is any at all, from the players than there was at the Raiders. It's chalk and cheese in that regard.
I agree. All we're seeing are like little comments leaked to Jeff Miller of the LA Times or Popper from defensive players saying, everything we went through in the classroom during the week, the Lions did the opposite. We're so frustrated. Or the Michael Davis at the Chiefs, let us play more man. So you're getting some of that. You're not getting, But I agree, it's not to the same degree of Devontae Adams and McDaniels and, rumours that the players hate him. It's not. It doesn't seem to be that level.
That part of my answer given, I would probably get rid of him.
Right now.
Yep. What bad can it do? We might win a couple of games with a new fire under the belly. It might also give any potential suitor a view at what this team could look like. Give Derek Ansley an opportunity to now run the defense and do it his way, without Staley over there kind of being that control freak, stubborn guy who's clearly limiting this highest paid defense in the league, and we're shit. It just so many things about this team just don't add up, and there's just got to be those consistent points that affect the offense's struggles, and the team as a whole just not playing consistent complementary football. We're a broken record on that argument, but the reality is he's either not capable of. You say he doesn't mince his words. That may be it, but actually getting his guys to achieve what he wants in his defensive scheme. And there seems to be issues with how he puppeteers the three phases to work together. It's offense is working, defense isn't, vice versa. And games that shouldn't be close are. It just so happens, we've been feeling ourselves with a couple of wins over pretty average oppositions. So I think. Look, I say that. I don't think it's ever going to happen because I can't remember when the Spanos last got rid of a coach in his contract.
No, he allowed McCoy and his father famously got rid of Marty. But, the other McCoy and Lynn got the full 4 years. My only critique, if you're going to fire him now, is I hope if the Chargers got one of those stops and won the game 41-38, you'd still be coming in with the same energy saying fire the coach. And if the answer is you wouldn't have fired Staley if they won 41-38, I think you face an uphill battle trying to say you should fire him coming off, 2 wins of their last 3. I don't, maybe not an uphill battle, but I feel like the way you look at this is, are you evaluating him as a head coach or as a defensive play caller? If it's head coach, you've got a team who's won their last 2 and just lost on the buzzer essentially to the Lions, coming off a short break. Maybe from that holistic vantage point, they're 4-5. Would you fire? It's up to you, listener, to decide. As a defensive play caller, same kind of deal. I think you've got a way stronger case to fire him. They've given up 500 yards for a second time in the season. It was the worst game in Staley's career based on EPA per play. Daniel Popper reported on that. Some of the micro factors in this game that we've already touched on, the lack of complementary play from the offense, the fact that they were so good on 3rd down, the fact that the Lions were hyper aggressive on 4th down and they had a few not go their way. I think they're relevant things to think about if you're going to fire him. I also philosophically, if I'm the leader of an organization, I like to honor the contract through the 3rd year short of exceptional circumstances. I'm mindful that Brandon Staley's a 40-year-old. This is maybe his only chance as a head coach. He's put in 2.5 years for the team. Seems to be a good human being. He's kind of comported himself with integrity. He hasn't been perfect every press conference, but he seems like a good family man with his young family. That will haunt him for the rest of his life. He'll never know at 4-5, were we going to fix this thing and get to 10 wins? Or, I'd like to see as the owner, is it 6 wins or 8 wins or 10 wins or 12? How did this guy go? It's really hard being a coach. Let coaches work through an entirety of a season because things can change. But I'm with you. There is hypothetical upside to a firing decision. Maybe the players actually get a freshness like we've seen with Antonio Pierce. You get to, scout some of the coaches. So I get it. Mine's kind of torn. Do you think the team can make the playoffs? That's another question. Are you thinking it's off the cards or are you still clinging on to some hope?
Well, I think realistically you'd need 10 wins to get through. And we spoke about this during the week. You probably need a tiebreaker or 2 to go in your favour at that as well. So it's really now in a position where it's difficult. We've still got the Bills, the Chiefs. We've got Denver at Denver after their performance now seems like a headache, and we traditionally don't. Baltimore as well. Sorry, yes, Baltimore are a big one. Patriots, look, anything can happen after what happened last time against Bills D. It's tough, man. We've really got to run, and I think if we lose this one, our hopes are dashed. I really do.
If we lose this one, you won't hear any pushback from me if the Chargers fire Brandon Staley at 4-6 after a loss to the Packers. I would have been disappointed. I wouldn't have thought it was crazy or unfair if he got fired on Tuesday this week. I would have been upset about it.
Yeah.
Or at least disappointed. I won't think that if they go in and lose at Lambeau Field 4-6.
Yeah. I think one thing you've got to realise that it's all well and good to be like, yeah, he's a nice guy and he's young and he's got a family and this can haunt him. At the end of the day, football's a business, and that's what people are hired to do. There's minimal emotions, and you've just got to separate it from, the kind of person that he is and what could be.
Yeah. And his record has been 9-8, 10-7, 4-5. Lynn and McCoy had 2 years of winning 5 or less games. Yeah. So, I think our patience as a society, I'll put it down to how much time we spend looking at screens and being on Twitter personally. I think we've become more hasty in our decision making as a species is my kind of overall sociological conclusion. But you know what? He didn't take over a poor team with no quarterback. He took over a team with Justin Herbert, and they spent all this money on weaponry. So there is some fairness to the firing decision for sure.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if, just to counter that argument of Lynn and McCoy and their losing seasons, I don't know if those it does speak volumes to like the weird shit that the Spanos do, and to honour contracts, to not have to pay 2 guys to do one job, which is why you'd keep Staley on for the 4th year. They were shocking decisions, and, rightfully so. We were willing to tear down the house to get both of those men out of their position. It just happened years too late. All right, mate, let's get on to the awards. You have the What do you got?
Shouting out someone we've not talked about since the preseason. It's Dean Leonard, who came in for a very sick, poor gastro-y Michael Davis, had 60 snaps. PFF charted him with a 70.6 coverage grade. He's only allowed 2 catches of his 5 targets, and he had a beautiful pass breakup to save a touchdown in the first quarter. He missed some tackles. His tackling grade wasn't great, but you take a cornerback in the 7th round, you think, nah, we're not going to see this guy starting. He started and he performed well. So well done.
Yep, nice. I think he had 2 forced incompletions as well. I was pretty impressed with old Dino there. I think it could really be anything on the defensive side of the ball this week. But I'm cutting the snake off at the head. Brandon Staley, you've given us 2 good weeks of defensive football against mediocre opposition. You got the group into some form and came out unprepared against a hot dick offensive coordinator and let Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs walk all over your men. You're a acclaimed defensive guru, and you've allowed close to 600 yards and 41 points. Dead man walking. All right, let's go right on to the Week 11 preview. Coming out of the Chargers game, it was nice last week to see a very minimal injury list. It's a little bit bigger now. Obviously, Michael Davis was ill throughout. So, as you said, I'll allow Dean Leonard to play a handful of very valuable snaps for his development. Chris Rump fractured his foot during warm-ups, which sort of speaks volumes to my impression of that guy. He's placed on IR and will likely miss the rest of the season. Chargers injury report for Wednesday's practice, a sight for sore eyes. Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett, Sebastian Joseph Day, Donald Parham, and Khalil Mack all did not participate, the latter on a veteran rest day. Yep. But in cool news, JT Woods was limited, so maybe we'll see some kind of return from him in the not too distant future, which is exciting. Now, forgive me, you'll have to help me out a little bit here. All I do know is that the Chargers have signed Steven Anderson to the practice squad. So welcome back, big Steve-O. That's exciting. We have, who else have we waived and
Yeah, to make that move, they waived Mark Webb, the safety, so he's now off the practice squad. And the Chargers went ahead and signed Justin Hollins, an edge rusher from the Giants practice squad, who's actually played 64 snaps this year for Green Bay. So there's a bit of cheeky intel, perhaps, of signing a guy who's been with the Packers this year, but he's been with Staley in the past, with Denver, with the Rams. He actually is one of Justin Herbert's old teammates at Oregon. So he slides in. Frankly, he's a better player than Chris Rumph. So this guy should have been on the team the whole time. And Steven Anderson is a better player than Trey McKitty and Stone Smart. So why was he sitting there? I'm pretty sure he wasn't on a roster, Steven Anderson. I know he was with the Cardinals. I'm not sure if he was with them this year. So same with Bryce Callahan instead of Essang Bassi. No idea what's going on. Anyway, that's the weekly news.
Press conferences were a bit interesting this week. It was like you could feel the pain in Brandon Staley in the post game. It was just put the blame on me. Like I can't keep doing this to these guys. That was the feeling. Like it starts with me. I wasn't prepared. Max come out and said we were prepared, just not for what we got. It was humbling, I guess, to see Staley in that way, because then when you looked at his press conference from this morning, it was like back to that kind of short, aggressive, or passive aggressive more so. Like I spoke about how he answered Popper's question, and it was just like weird attitude going back. And I was like, this guy's lost it. He has, not only does the team not have an identity, Staley has lost his identity as well.
Yeah.
And the whole well kind of composed guy that is just positive. Like you might have shaved that beard off, man, but he ain't fooling anyone.
It was not a press conference that filled you with confidence that the team's going to go to Lambeau and win. It was a wheels have fallen off press conference, unless that anger is channeled into an incredible performance. But I'm with you. I was concerned by it.
So we've seen a real Jekyll and Hyde from Staley this week, and it'd be really interesting to see what kind of Staley and defense we put out against the Packers. What happened in the Packers-Steelers game, mate? Run us through it.
It was like objectively, it kind of looks like it was a snooze fest because it was 23 Steelers, Packers 19 in Pittsburgh, and the team, like both teams combined to score only 12 total points in the second half, which is not many. But there were still some interesting aspects of this game, I thought. The Packers really struggled to stop the running game. The Steelers ran for 205 yards. Jaylen Warren had 101 yards and a rushing touchdown. On the other side of the ball, I mean, far out. Jordan Love was just he was going full gunslinger. He finishes 21 for 40, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Made some crazy big-time throws. Both INTs came late in the game, so the score was Steelers 23, Green Bay 19, with maybe 5 minutes left, and Jordan Love throws an red zone interception on a really nice bit of heady veteran play by Patrick Peterson, stopping an out and up kind of route where he was covering. It was Christian Watson, and Love slightly underthrows it. Peterson taps it back in bounds to the safety. And then, with maybe 50 seconds left on the game's final drive, Jordan Love finds a way to throw a 50-yard completion and then marches the ball right up into the kind of red area. Final play of the game, a touchdown's going to win it. And he throws it just short of the sticks. He fires it in to like a play-action scissors concept. Picked off this time. It was... I think it was...
Oh, it's escaped me.
Yeah, it's escaped me as well, but it was, it was Kazee. So he's picked the ball off, and Steelers win by 4 points at home. Tough contest. Just two teams who weren't super efficient on offense. Pickett really struggled, passed for barely any yards himself, maybe 120 odd. And Packers dropped to 3-6 after a loss away from home, and now come back home to face us.
Not a whole lot of positives for Green Bay to roll on with. But I think there's always an element of strength for the Packers when you're playing them at Lambeau. Outdoors, it's a bit cooler up there. Thankfully, we're not playing them too late in the year. But it's different. We play a lot of games inside, and it's a different thing for Herbert in his young career. On the offensive side of the ball, been a decent run so far by means of pass blocking for this unit, especially without Bakhtiari. The starting five on the line have given up just 9 sacks. And yeah, they're allowing Jordan in the high twos, close to 3 seconds in the pocket. Dobbs, Reed, Musgrave, all very handy. Musgrave's really come into his own the last couple of games, 2 consecutive games with 50 yards receiving. Reed has some awesome speed. I think he was that blowout 50-yard completion. And Dobbs, I mean, you throw the ball near Christian Watson and he'll run away from it, but that's all right. They've got options. And
even Dontavian Wicks as a rookie, a 5th rounder, I thought was pretty good. He's
absolutely.
He's fast,
yeah,
and he's another target. They're a young offense, but they've got some good players.
They've really got like it could go either way playing against them. They've really, Jordan Love's got that sort of gunslinger where he can make some awesome throws. He throws with anticipation, but he gets a little bit pressured. He throws a deep ball, and it's trouble. Decent names for the Packers as well on defense. Let's not forget about them. Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary. They've all had 5 sacks each on the season. Devondre Campbell's putting up awesome numbers in every facet of defense. And Kesar Nixon, pretty handy return man. He's tallied over 600 yards so far. So there are plenty of strengths in the Packers and things to be wary of. Definitely don't go into this one thinking that we're just going to steamroll them. What do you see their weaknesses? Where are our opportunities, mate?
I think one segues from what you've mentioned, that because they're an inexperienced and young offense especially, they're not quite tight. Love is the least accurate quarterback in the NFL based on completion percentage. Some of these receivers, when you've got Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, Wicks, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, they're just so young. We're talking about players with high drop rates. Jordan Love doesn't quite put it on them. So they're not a super professional outfit. Green Bay Packers fans really have it in for the defensive coordinator, Joe Barry, who has ties to Staley, runs a Fangio defense. They're really squishy against the run. They allowed 205 yards to the Steelers, so there's a potential opportunity there. So I guess coaching in general is maybe a question mark. LaFleur had a fantastic start to his head coaching career while he was with Aaron Rodgers. Now he's finding out that without a franchise quarterback, it's a much different kettle of fish. He's not super aggressive on 4th down, though I thought he did scheme up a really nice game against the Steelers for Jordan Love. Like the Lions, their red zone offense is an issue. They're ranked 27th in the league. I think they've got a few weaknesses you can exploit, but the question is, can we exploit them with that great O-line that you mentioned at the start, Andy? So maybe moving into a few keys to victory or game planning aspects, anything that stood out to you?
Well, it's a big one because I feel like the way this Packers team hasn't scored more than 21 points for 7 straight weeks now, and a lot of it is due to that inconsistent, inaccurate QB play. Their running game hasn't really fired. Aaron Jones has, been unavailable for a third of the games, and he was pretty average. But a lot of the Chargers, and especially the defensive units' hopes in this game will rely on us overcoming the strengths of their offensive line. Jordan Love's game has centered around decent completion percentage and efficiency in the short passing game. He averages 9.7 yards per attempt, and it's when the defenses force him to throw further down the field, 10 plus yards, his output deteriorates greatly. He's registered 6 touchdowns, 10 interceptions on his intermediate and deep throws. Tends to panic, launch, that gunslinger stuff, kind of like what you saw late in the game against the Steelers. So I feel like offense really needs to take off from where it finished in the Lions game. We really need to hit the front. No more of this slow starts, Kellen. It really needs to be put Jordan Love on the back foot and make them chase. Make him make mistakes. That is, as far as I'm concerned, the most crucial thing to us getting the win here.
Agree. The Packers conceded a touchdown on the first drive of the game to the Steelers with a Najee Harris run. It's got to be the same blueprint. Start 7-0. On offense,
Absolutely.
They've got J. Alexander. It looks like he might miss again, which is going to really help. They've got 2 super inexperienced cornerbacks because they've also got Eric Stokes on IR. So they're running around with Carrington Valentine and Corey Ballantyne. Valentine and Ballantyne are the corners. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure their safety, Rudy Ford, might be missing too. So their secondary, it's depleted. So this is a chance for the run game to get going on offense. Screens should work against these Packers linebackers for the most part. But as we were saying, the defense, it's got to start up front with the running game because with Dillon and Jones, they will try it out. But can we get to Jordan Love, man? He's the least pressured quarterback in the NFL. The least. Yeah. And he's chucking it deep. He's got the highest average depth of target, and he's the least pressured quarterback. A stat that I couldn't believe, and goodness, I hope it continues. Do you know the Packers have averaged 3.22 points in the first half this year?
Really? I did not know that.
They've scored 13 total points in the first quarter and 16 total points in the second quarter. So their average at halftime is to have 3.22 on the scoreboard.
Wow.
Need to come out, establish the lead. It should happen. You're away from home, but balls are on the line this week. Staley's job is on the line. I really don't know what to do with this result prediction, Andy, because I don't know how I feel about the team. I don't know how I feel about the press conference I heard Staley give today. It did not make me feel confident. You're away from home. It's not an easy place to play, Lambeau Field, steeped in its tradition. But you know what? Ultimately, because of the way Justin Herbert played against the Lions, and because I think Joe Barry is not a very good defensive coordinator, I'm actually going to say the offense scores 31 points and that the defense doesn't fix much, and we're feeling the same way about the defense, but we win 31-27, and Love is going to have a chance to score a touchdown to win the game. We're just going to scrape out of there 5-5, but everyone's still going to be saying, fight Staley. The defense gave up 27 points to the Packers.
All right. It's a bit call me crazy. I say a bunch of negative things and then I go, but I think we'll come out and win.
Who are you filling in for, though?
Yeah. It's going to be a close one, but the Chargers will win by 25. Now, I have the Chargers winning 27-21. I'm feeling safe about that, but fuck, anything could happen, hey. Anyway, it's been a pleasure doing this with you, my fellow favourite best friend podcaster. Guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. We will hope as best we can for the victory pod next week. More beers, more laughter and revelry. We'll see you next time on the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Backpedals looking, firing. He's got Floyd turning. Got it. 6 10, 5, high step, touchdown!